Councilwoman McDonough is going to lead us tonight. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Remember all the men and women who are over fighting for our freedom. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay, thank you all for being here this evening for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. All board members are present with the exception of Councilman Lombardi, who has a personal, professional matter that he's dealing with this evening, and he's not going to be able to join us. Also with us tonight is Ann Spofford, our town clerk, all the way down to my right. All the way down to my left is our town council, Greg Fulchetti, is with us tonight as well. Prior to coming out to our public voting meeting, we met in executive session with Mr. Vincent Franz. He's an architect with WMW Architects to discuss a contractual retention matter. And after that, Police Chief Mike Kazari met with the board to discuss a personnel matter within the police department. So at 7 p.m., we're going to start our regular meeting with a public hearing, and the public hearing is on the fire protection contracts and ambulance district contracts for the fiscal year 2016. And before we open the public hearing, I'm going to ask our town clerk, Ann Spofford, to read the notice of the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel will conduct a public hearing on the fire protection contracts and the ambulance district contracts for the year 2016 to be held on the third day of February 2016 at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter that evening as possible. Said contracts to be advertised and posted as follows. The contractor is the Mahopac Falls Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. for Fire Protection District Number 1 services not to exceed $753,460. Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. for Fire Protection District Number 2 services not to exceed $1,200,000. Carmel Fire District and Carmel Fire Department, Inc. Fire Protection District Number 3, $530,000. Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ambulance Services, Carmel Ambulance District Number 1, $110,000. North Salem Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ambulance Services, Carmel Ambulance District Number 1, $12,800. At said public hearing, all interested persons shall be heard on the subject thereof. The town board will make every effort to assure that the public hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the town clerk. By order of the town board of the town of Carmel, Ann Spofford, town clerk.
Okay, thank you for the reading of the notice of public hearing. Ann, I need a motion now by the board to open the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, at this time, the public hearing is open. If there's any members of the public that would like to come up and speak, come on up to the podium at this time. Did anyone sign up in advance to speak? No, it doesn't look like anyone did. So, anyone want to come up and speak on the notice of the public hearing, come on up at this time. Going once, going twice. Okay, there being none, need a motion to close.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, first, then we're going to go to the town board voting meeting. First item on the agenda is to accept the town board minutes of January 6, 2016. All those in favor? Accepting the minutes of January 6th.
Aye.
January 6th. John, you go with the minutes? Absolutely. Okay. All right, number 2 on the agenda this evening is a resolution authorizing additions to the active list of the Carmel Volunteer Fire Department. Councilman Schneider, would you read number 2?
Absolutely. Resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes the addition of the following names to the active list of Carmel Fire Department: Andrea Gutierrez of Carmel, New York, and Amanda Jasek of Carmel, New York, and I apologize if I would have butchered that. Jaschke. Thank you. Jaschke. I offer the resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 3, is a resolution authorizing the attendance at a seminar. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read number 3?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorize Town of Carmel Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt, Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell, and Senior Account Clerk Michelle Tonafrancia to attend the 2016 New York State GFOA Annual Conference in Albany, New York, April 5th, 2016 through April 8th, 2016, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel authorizes payment of reasonable and necessary expenses incurred in connection therewith upon audit. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 4, is a resolution authorizing entry into contracts with Penflex Incorporated for the Service Award Program Administration. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read number 4?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as the Commissioners of Carmel Fire Protection Districts Number 1, Number 2, and Number 3, hereby authorizes entry into service-aware program service agreements with Penflex, Inc. of Latham, New York, for administration services for the Fire Protection District Service Awards Program for 2016, as contained within the proposal of September 1st, 2015, which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, at estimated costs of $6,000 for Fire Protection District Number 1, $6,700 for Fire Protection District Number 2, and $5,400 for Fire Protection Number 3, District Number 3. And be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to sign any and all documentation required to effect this authorization on the terms set forth herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 5, is a resolution authorizing the scheduling of a public hearing. Councilman Schneider, would you read number 5?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing to be held on the 24th day of February 2016 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible on a local law amending Chapter 147 of the Town Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Vehicle and Traffic, and be it further resolved that Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspaper of the town and on the Town Bulletin Board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 6, is a resolution authorizing the purchase of ammunition for the Town of Carmel Police Department. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 6?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Michael Kazari, hereby authorizes the purchase of the Town of Carmel Police Department 2016 ammunition order from Eagle Point Gun / J.T. Morrison Son, Thoroughfare, New Jersey, New York, State Bid Number 22641, at a cost not to exceed $16,834.90 in accordance with the proposal dated September 30th, 2015, and be it further resolved that the Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is authorized to sign all necessary documents required to effect the purchase on the terms authorized herein, and be it further resolved that the Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any necessary budget modifications required to fund the purchase authorized hereunder. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded?
Seconded by Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 7, is a resolution accepting a proposal and authorizing the purchase of 2 police vehicles and the installation of mobile data terminals for the Town of Carmel Police Department. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 7?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Michael Kazari, hereby authorizes the purchase of 2 2016 Dodge Charger all-wheel drive LDEE 48 police vehicles from Robert Green Truck Division, Rock Hill, New York, Oneonta County statewide piggyback bid number 1777 at an aggregate cost not to exceed $74,401.92. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of the Town of Carmel Chief of Police Michael Kazari, hereby authorizes the acceptance of the proposal of Island Tech Services, Brookhaven, New York, for the purchase and installation of mobile data terminals and accessories for the 2 purchased vehicles authorized herein at a cost not to exceed $14,225.90, in accordance with the proposal dated November 12, 2014. And be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is authorized to sign all necessary documents required to effect the purchase on the terms authorized herein. And be it further resolved, the Town Comptroller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any necessary budget modifications required to fund the purchase authorized hereunder. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 8, is a resolution authorizing the repair of a police vehicle. Councilman Schneider, would you read number 8?
Yes, resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Michael Kazari, hereby authorizes payment for the repair of a 2013 Chevrolet Caprice police vehicle by State Line Auto Body of Brewster, New York, at a cost not to exceed $8,958.33, in accordance with the proposal dated December 4th, 2015. And be it further resolved that the Town Comptroller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any necessary budget modifications required to fund the purchase authorized hereunder. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay. All right, next resolution, number 9, is a resolution authorizing the refund of copying fee for the Town of Carmel Building Department. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 9?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Director of Code Enforcement Michael Carnazza, hereby authorize refund of the sum of $70 to and for building permits produced for tax map number 77.17-1-22 to James O'Hagan, Carmel, New York. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 10, is a resolution accepting a proposal for architectural design consultant services for the Town of Carmel Planning Board. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read number 10?
Yes, resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes acceptance of the proposal of Warshauer, Malusi, Warshauer Architects, P.C., for the performance of architectural consulting services to the Town of Carmel Planning Board upon the terms set forth within the proposal dated January 15th, 2016, a copy of which is in file in the Town Supervisor's office. And be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates in form acceptable to Town Council, Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all necessary contract documentation to effect acceptance of this proposal upon the terms authorized herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
With pleasure, after meeting the gentleman today.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. This gentleman, this architectural firm that we just approved tonight is going to be assigning one of their staff architects to work with the Carmel Planning Board to develop site plan applications and to assist the applicant in the process with the planning board. He will be taking over the duties of our former architectural review board. We hadn't had anybody on board working with the planning board since the ARB was disbanded, so the planning board actually recommended that we consider hiring a architectural consulting firm to assist them with applications before the board. And this town board felt that that was absolutely necessary going forward. So any site plan amendments or any new site plan applications going before the planning board will, this architect will be assisting them in designing their property. So we're hoping that, you know, the assistance of a architectural firm, in this case, a architectural design firm, will be a big help to the town of Carmel with new applicants going before the planning board. So that's why we budgeted $25,000 in the 2016 town budget for the cost of this architectural firm, and, you know, we believe that the amount that we allocated in the budget is going to be sufficient funds to cover the cost of the architect. So, any town board members want to comment any further on that?
Yeah, pleasure meeting him.
Okay, yep. Gentleman, he's local, and I think he's going to do a good job. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 11. This is an order calling public hearing in the matter, sorry? Okay. This is an order in calling the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Carmel Sewer District number 7. John, would you read this one?
Absolutely. I'm just going to paraphrase a bit. This is a resolution calling for a public hearing relating to the increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Water District Number 7. It's for replacement of the roof, and presently it's contemplating the cost not to exceed $203,872. This is scheduled for a public hearing to be held Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Ave. The resolution reads 7:30 p.m. I'd like to amend that to 7 p.m. Prevailing time. And I will offer this resolution as pre-filed and amended to read 7 p.m.
Second?
Okay. Offered by Councilman Schneider with the amendment to reflect 7 p.m. as the start time, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci with that amendment. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough? Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the voting meeting agenda items for tonight's town board meeting. Is there any residents that would like to come up and comment on the agenda items that we covered this evening? Come on up to the podium at this time. Hey, Bob.
So I'm looking at the notice of the public hearings that's on your agenda. So I see you have 5 different fire districts. You have, the first one is Mahopac Falls Volunteer Fire. Do you have 1, 2, 3? Do you have these 5 contracts basically complete and ready to be signed and done? Are they done deals, these 5?
No, they're not. No, there's.
Are any of them done, or just, are they all?
I'll defer to council on that.
The typical process is, once we have the closing of the public hearing and any comment is taken, there'll be a resolution at a future meeting date authorizing the actual entry into the contracts.
So there's going to be no discussion about what's in the contract. I thought that's what was going on here tonight. There was going to be a discussion about the contracts per se. So really, you got 5 contracts, they're proposals at this point then, I guess. They're not contracts, so there should be proposals opposed to contracts. So we're not really talking about contracts, we're talking about proposals. So are you going to have another public hearing when you finally finalize these contracts, or are you just going to vote on them and basically there's not going to be no public discussion at that point? At what point will I mean, you're having a public hearing tonight, but there's nothing for us to discuss because there is no contract. So it's almost like you'd be talking about issues that we have no idea what we're talking about. I was thinking that there would be some conversation tonight about contracts, and if you're still negotiating them, it's almost it almost seems unethical and improper to speak about things that you are still negotiating. So my question is, when you finalize these contracts, is there going to be an opportunity to have a public hearing, or are you guys just going to vote on it at that point?
They'll be voted on at a public meeting. The proposed contracts in their Form 4 as tendered for voting will be part of the backup, and the public will be able to see it and be able to comment at the meeting.
The public will be able to comment at the conclusion of the meeting after you guys vote, though, in reality, right?
That's the procedure.
That's the
yeah.
process. So, I mean, in reality, the public will not have any input once you guys agree to a contract with the fire departments. You guys then will vote on the contracts, and then at the conclusion of your meeting, whether you vote yes or no for the contracts, the public can come up, and at that point, with all due respect, it would be a bitching session at that point because the contracts would either be voted in or out, so the public comments are just going to be a waste of time. I thought tonight, that's when we was gonna be able to have some comments about the contract, and then you would vote on it. So it almost seems a little backwards there, that the public's really having no input here, because, you know, you have this is supposed to be a notice of public hearing about the contracts, but there are no contracts, so with all due respect, the public hearing seems like it's not a proper public hearing. It's a public hearing about a potential proposed contract that isn't a contract yet. So I think maybe you should have postponed this public hearing until you actually had the contracts in hand, then had a public
It's
hearing.
it's on the proposed contracts. That's the
That's
way
not
the-
what this says,
That's
though.
the way the law reads.
I know, but that's not what this says. This says,
That says on the contracts?
yes.
The law, New York State town law is what we're bound to, Bob, regarding public hearings on fire districts and it is, the way it reads, it's proposed contract.
And it's on the general terms of the contract.
That the
It
town
amounts in the
board
terms.
of Town of Carmel will conduct a public hearing on fire protected contracts, the fire protection contracts, just so you know.
Yeah.
There is no word proposed in here, and here's my point. When you do, you are gonna have a meeting, you're gonna go through your agenda items, you're gonna vote, and then you're gonna give the public the opportunity to speak once you've made your decision. So just in my opinion, there will be no public input into the contract, because you're basically saying, come up tonight and talk about whatever you want, make whatever noise you want to make, but we have no substance to talk about, and I don't think, I wouldn't go down that road, and I don't think nobody else wants to go down that road. Just a point of information I'm bringing up to you.
But I guess my question, are you asking to negotiate in public?
No,
or-
I'm saying you're saying you're having a public hearing on the contracts. It doesn't say proposed contracts. I came here thinking you had contracts done, and we would be discussing contracts. There are no contracts here tonight, so we're not discussing contracts. We're just talking about hypotheticals.
We couldn't have the contracts done before the public hearing was held and concluded.
That'd be against the law.
That's what we're bound to do. So typically, in the last 8 years, the contracts have remained identical in term and scope, with the exception of the financial provision. And those are modified generally to some extent every year. And that's what we're bound to do in terms of the general terms and scope of the contract.
I think we all know 4 of the 5 are probably going to be the same. It's the 5th one that is probably, up in the air for discussion.
I think-
All right, okay, I think I made my point. Unfortunately, you guys are going to vote on the contract, and really no one's going to be able to speak about it unless they call you on the phone
No,
or get to you.
Bobby, everybody has the forum tonight for the public hearing to speak on it.
Look, you
You-
heard
you can-
everybody
you
speak,
can
but you guys have been negotiating contracts, and I came here with the understanding that I thought the contract would be done, and we'd be talking about the contract. And that's what you have in a public hearing, because it does say contract. It doesn't say proposed contract. You could say it says proposed contract, but it doesn't. It says contract.
Yeah.
So I came here thinking you guys had
understand, it's just that
contracts.
we can't talk about it until contracts are signed. So that's why we're here tonight, to hear any.
You can't sign the contract.
We can't sign the contracts until this is concluded. So that's why anyone here who wants to speak about the contracts that are, with these guys here. Concerns or whatever,
worries.
that's what today is.
The
tonight's
allocated
for.
funding amount that was advertised, the public could have commented on that.
It just, I'll sit down after this, but I just thought it would have been nice if we had some more substance
Now,
to know
what-
where you guys were going.
After this meeting and before they're signed and we have to pass a resolution to sign them, we could put them on a work session.
Which you typically do it.
Which we do, and then you can come, it won't be a public hearing, but it'll be an agenda item, just like we're talking about this as an agenda item right now, at the back end of the thing. So the public will have, another pass at it, if you will, based on
All right, and last thing is, we're working with, I guess the firefighters are working with, all 5 of them are working without contracts since January 1st, right?
it's been like that
So
for
we're-
the last.
Yeah,
Is that every year? You always
It's every
do it
year.
Every
It's
year.
every year, March.
every year.
March 1st, first or second week
All
in
right,
March is
thank
when
you
the
very
check
much.
is.
I always thought it was odd.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
always
odd
thought
too.
it was odd.
I think, and we can change that,
You can, but.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on agenda items at this time?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Colomanico. On the matter of the contracts, can you speak to how you're looking to move differently? You mentioned that the contracts are always the same, but I think given the issues that we've seen, we would expect some changes. We would hope to see some changes to improve accountability and transparency. So can you address how you're going to be moving forward with the new contract?
To you if you want to talk about it. Okay, you're still in the process of negotiation, so it's up to you.
So, that's the point, is that if we, listen, I don't mind if we want to publicly negotiate the contracts, but, me personally, but, you know, that's the question, as Mr. Buckley just asked. If we start going line by line through the contract, we're negotiating in public. If that's what we want to do, I'm fine with that. 1 of 5, 1 of 4 right now. But I guess, I mean, we could tell you, I have no problem having, you know, the 5 or 4 major points illustrated on what I view as a benefit. But
I'm not necessarily asking for public negotiation. I'm just asking for comment on how you're approaching those contracts differently in light of what's happened.
We've been meeting with certain fire department personnel and their attorney and going through it. And we haven't done that pretty much in the past. And one of the things, I mean, we've done it, but not into the extent. And Bob, one of the things that you're saying is, for many, many years, the contracts are always signed later on after January 1st. So we are going to be discussing about possibly having them in December, signed in December, so come January 1st, they all have a contract. It has, ever since I've been on the board, it's always been this way, after the fact. So we can, you know, that's also something where, you know, that I wanted you to know, Bob, and everybody, actually.
And we've asked for more information, more financials. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to give it to us, but during the negotiation, we're asking for more financial background. That's a negotiating point. They could say no, they could say yes. We have gotten from a lot of the fire departments and
The NFPs,
all the applications,
all the NFPs. that we-
all the NFPs, the non-for-profit vendors here. We've gotten more information for the first time. What other macro big changes? So we've asked for more training. We want to implement training part of the contract. We asked for, listen, I'll put it this way. Me personally, would like to have the creation of a fire district on paper. Be it that instead of voting, the taxpayers vote and convert it over to a fire district. If we could do that via contract on paper, I think that's great, because then you're almost getting the best of both worlds, because there's pros and cons to a fire protection district and a fire district. Again, I'll speak as 1 of 4, 1 of 5, Frank's not here, but I would love to see a fire district, but on paper by contract. So if we can emulate what a district is obligated under state law, but do that under contract, that's what I'm looking for. And I don't think we have a problem with a number of the non-for-profit vendors here. We're still in negotiation with one, and we'll see how that goes. We're requesting more audits. We're trying to put stopgaps. So that's, I could tell you what I'm looking forward for, without going into too much detail.
So, sorry, you just said you've requested more audits? That's part of what's been requested?
A little deeper dive of an audit and a different type of an audit as opposed to just a certification. Again, if the town voted, if the public voted to make them districts, the state comptroller's office will require a certain level of audit and a certain type. So we're basically saying, you know, or at least if I remember, 1 every 2 years, have a deeper dive into it and more comprehensive audit. Trying to prevent what, you know, so far has been alleged and the feds are looking into.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else on the agenda items at this time? Just the agenda items? Okay, all right, there being none on agenda items, we're going to go to new business portion of the meeting. This is the open forum where the public can come up and speak and address the board on any items that are related to the town of Carmel. Must be a property owner, taxpayer, business owner, resident to address the board for open business. New business, town of Carmel. Mike?
Hi, good evening. On tonight's first executive session, we had Police Chief Kazarian on personnel. I remember you guys speaking a couple of weeks ago when you reiterated for the 500th time that we're not disbanding our police department. I was hoping that's on the new PDs.
Yeah, Chief Kazari brought a new police candidate to the board for us to interview, and we did that this afternoon, and I can
We're
tell you.
hiring, so we're hiring.
We're
more
hiring,
cops.
yeah, we're hiring. The chief brought one in this evening, and it's anticipated that he'll be bringing another one, the second one in, within the next couple of weeks.
So we're hiring 2 new cops.
We are.
So we can say it again
Well,
for the
so-
500th time in the last 3 months
yeah,
that
coupled
we're not
with-
disbanding the police department.
Coupled with, we're fixing a car, we're buying 2 new cars per resolution, and we just interviewed one officer that was, I gotta be honest with you, this was a great executive session, meeting the architect and the police officer, and the chief's gonna come back in, so, those are 3 to 4 things positive for the police department.
Okay, because that brings me to my next question. How's the police department negotiations going? And how is the highway department negotiations going? Because I'll save you the answer. I've been asking this question for the last 3 to 5 years. Okay? It's really a tiring question to ask. And everybody knows the answer I've been getting for the last 3 or 5 years. I truly believe the public should be aware of parts, the majority or the major parts of these negotiations. I think the public should be aware of what the town is offering. I think the public should be aware of what the police department and highway department people are asking for. And I find it hard to believe that we're talking 5 years, we're out of contract for the highway department, and going on 5 years, take away that waste of arbitration taxpayers' money on the police department. And I want to know what is the big secret. I mean, last I hear rumors, we're offering the police department a 12-year contract. We're hiring more cops. Why can't we get a contract done? There's obviously something there that we can't get the contract done, and I think if the public knew, maybe the contract would get done.
Again, as one of 4 right now, I've been asking and I've been saying we should put the contracts on the website. They're public information. Instead of foiling them, we should just put it out there. There are concepts of negotiating in public, but again, I don't think there's harm to it.
There are some things you can't.
Yeah.
I understand that.
You know, so as long as the public has the old contract and sees what it is made up of, I keep thinking that it should be there, but I can only speak for one of 5, and we have the new internet or website. I think we should put a PDF up there, because it is public knowledge. Regarding the police negotiation right now, we were in talks. I'll say we are in talks, but there has been a stall. They did put a proposal together, but I will tell you, and I don't want to create animosity, because it's one thing I don't want to do. But no, but
Because
I'm.
we're hiring 2 cops, we're having a good night.
But our discussion to what was proposed to us on paper was not exactly in line with what the verbal discussion was. So that just, you know, you feel like you take 2 steps forward and then you take a step back. The other aspect of it is, and again, I will only be able to speak for myself, I am semi on hold right now, and I'll tell you why. We have the sheriff coming in and the state police helping us. The PBA has filed a grievance against the town of Carmel. We got served, we got subpoenaed or summoned. We are going to have to defend, we're going to have to pay money to our lawyers to defend up in Albany. They are claiming that the town of Carmel Patrol is exclusive. And the grievance says exclusivity, that they have the right to patrol, not the sheriff. So we are going to have to.
You're serious.
We are going to have to spend the taxpayers' money and go defend that. So, and when I say why I'm on hold for contract negotiation, if the town loses.
You can't negotiate
If the town loses, I don't know what's going to happen. If the town wins, depending upon how that PERB hearing or grievance hearing goes, is going to weigh on how negotiation goes to that. Do we have to mitigate salaries and ask for a higher increase in health care because they won exclusivity, so we're going to have to hire 6 to 8 police officers? You know, I keep saying, if you hire 5 to 6 police officers that the sheriff is helping us with, it's $300,000 day one. In 5 years, it's $1 million added to the budget. The police department budget is already $9 million of $24 million town budget. In 5 years, we're asking it to go up to 10 or 10 plus. All this town board is trying to do is to control. I keep saying the word mitigate. It's not eliminate. Mitigate is not eliminate. We're trying to control the overall expenditures. We like the police department. We've all said it that we'd like to keep them, and we want to keep them. But we're just trying to control the overall expenditures.
There's your answer on the police department.
There's my answer on the police department. And I feel like I'm gonna create animosity right now because.
Well, it's gonna be in the paper.
It's always
If
like,
they- if
it's
they-
always like a tit for tat, and I hate that
I mean, if
because
you have a 10 or
that's not what we
12-year deal
want.
on the table, I'm not even going to get upset about it. Let's go to the highway department. Several times, Mr. Lombardi, who's not here, so I'm not going to say it, but he says, we're negotiating. When I talk to the guys at the highway department, they don't know anything. So how could it be 5 years that they were without a contract? I mean, that's unconscionable. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We have had meetings in the past. I won't say anything recently. We have been trying to communicate with the attorneys who represent IBTA. Apparently, there's been a drop in communication on that side in between legal counsel and the unit. And what we're trying to do is get on the same page with their attorneys, our attorneys, and their unit. Because apparently, there's, again, that break in communication, which we need to greatly work on.
Well, I'm going to go back to what Mr. Lupinacci said. I'm going to correct his statement. You guys are taking 2 steps forward and 3 back.
Sadly.
Last thing, on executive session tonight, you have Franzetti, town engineer, and the consulting engineer coming in to go over something. At the budget hearing for the 2016 budget, I made a suggestion that I thought would save the town about $75,000 a year. And I wonder if anybody followed through with that suggestion or asked the consulting engineer how much it would cost to put a body in town hall to save the taxpayers money. Has anybody asked them that?
A body in the town hall, Mike, with respect to the grant writer?
No. I very explicitly said that we have a great engineering consultant firm that I know their work, and I see how they work, and I know what we pay them. And we have a town engineer, and I know his work, and I know how we pay him, and how much we pay him. And I very clearly asked at the budget hearing to ask our consulting engineer how much it would cost to put a body in town hall so the supervisor has someone to go to during business hours for answers. And why are we duplicating services? And I will state publicly, I'm in favor of the outside services, not the inside services. So maybe somebody will ask him that tonight, because I asked you that 3 months ago. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up and comment on new business, town-related business? Mr. Coxon, how are you?
Very well. Hope all is well. Last meeting, a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was the Deputy Superintendent Lombardi had lamented the mortgage tax loss of revenue. Well, I'm very happy to inform, which you probably already know, that the fourth quarter of 2015 capped off another solid performance for real estate in the region. Home sales reached a new 10-year high. And homes sold 18% better in 2015 versus 2014. And in Carmel, as well as other areas, the median sale price happened to go up. So it appears that, as someone advises about getting in and out of the stock market, when these mortgage taxes come up, the fact of the matter is that they will come back. And it's part of what I'm hearing, because as you know, my agenda, without any hidden, is the professional level of the police department. Now, one second item I wanted to address is the level of accreditation, and you and I exchanged some information last week, Supervisor, our last meeting, that one of the barriers to an accreditation from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services would be the Sally Port, which is the prisoner garage. Well, that I found is curious because I had some time in a former life to do some accreditation review. So I made a phone call up to Albany and got what I'll call the point person for New York State accreditation of police departments, and we reviewed the document together, and there is no such provision requiring a Sally Port. I also knew, and I'm not going to say that that is so therefore it's not a barrier to being accredited. And my entire agenda about accreditation is that the town of Carmel citizens receive the most professional police services that are available. Frankly, I don't think accreditation will support the model that the town has employed. But in any event, one of the things I did find out from this point person was, and I'm continuing to review the document, that there are waivers given on certain things by a panel of 17 professionals that the governor appoints to this committee that decides whether accreditation has been achieved by the local departments. And in my conversation with this person, I was moved to think that we have a very good chance to be accredited. As she indicated to me, many departments are of a great lesser degree of intensity and professionalism as Carmel is. So toward that end, accreditation, and also I happened to start to Google a few odds and ends, and I went back to November 12th meeting of the town board, and I guess there was a lot of static over this question of police services, and it continues to be. We had a report that I referenced a couple of weeks ago from DCJS, which was published in a study into 2007. And I think it's appropriate, and I asked the board to consider, that we bring in a professional agency to look at our town board and tell us as town citizens what the town needs, without identifying any bias at the moment, how many men, how many women how many human resources there should be for this town. Everyone tells me, and from the reading that I even understand from your statements, that we are less than what we were. In 2012, Lieutenant Carr said that we were down several people, and we are down even more from then. So I'd ask the town board to consider that. And I think this is supported by the town, because when I read the papers, I see that we walked away for what is stated as good reasons. Style was one of the words that I think I used, the style of study, that the good sergeant, I murder his name, Ditchkowski from Erie, was involved in. But I did read that Schmidt, quoting you, sir, said that, well, not quoting you, paraphrasing you, said that the town board doesn't want the study to be totally abandoned, but simply to have a more in-depth professional study. Now, as I understand, DCJS will do this without cost, and in this state, they are a recognized professional study. So while we dance around whether we're going to merge or not, or we're going to supplement, which we are already doing as your model of January 1, why can't we give not only a good thought to study, but maybe say, listen, by March 1st meeting, whatever your meeting is, we will decide whether to call in DCJS and get that professional study that I think helps everyone understand what the board's actions are and how valuable their responses may or may not be to the model of police services for Carmel. So I bring that to the board. And finally, when I left the meeting, we talked a little bit, I don't know if the proper word is capital budget, but I think there was a gentleman over there from Recreation who said he had needs, and I think you pointed out the DPW has needs. Well, I'm not an advocate or an adversary for either of their needs, but I am a strong advocate that I don't think without a good police department and a well-resourced police department, not only human but in structures and infrastructure, are required by a town of this size. I have a brochure here that, sort of talks to me about this, and that I'm sure you all know is Drug Crisis in the Backyard, and there are comments here about the drug trade in our town. And it affects mostly our young people who often live to be adults who are also affected. So we do know that there are customers for this. We need that professional level, and I would request that the police department not be second to any other dollar spent for any other infrastructure in this community. And in my own mind, we won't have good recreation if we don't have good police. It is a strong element. I know you're struggling with it. And I know we almost get adversarial at times, but I think in our hearts we're not. But I really believe that we need some sort of objective look that compares us to other municipalities and says, this is what the square footage requires, this is what the population requires, this is what the projected figures of population in the next 5 years, because real estate does project that people are driving to Putnam County to become residents. Well, I'll share the article with you if you don't mind.
I've read the article, and did you see the new article that we're the highest in foreclosures? And during the arbitration process, we had professionals come in, and the population is decreasing. At one of the fastest rates in Carmel, Putnam County versus surrounding areas. So, I mean, you could play with numbers 100 different ways, and I don't even know if the arbitration numbers are right outside of both parties agreed.
In reference, sir, what arbitration? I mean,
We had the police arbitration back in
oh,
February
and as a
of
result,
2000.
you said that the services, or the study indicated that the services might be less needed because there were less people.
I mean,
Okay, so that's a while ago, no? It's not last week.
I'm sorry?
How recent is that study? I'm talking about something that I'm reading about the upsurge in mortgage taxes, and as you know, mortgage
So when you
means...
say the upsurge, we're gonna go from 750 to 820. That's 100,000, less than $1 million. 8 years ago, when that study came out,
Yeah.
it was like 3.5. It was close to 6 times what it is now. So I get the upsurge, but we're still in an economic crisis or stagnation, if you will. I
I'm
mean,
sure we are. I'm sure we are. But I do know that investments of essential services such as police and fire are investments of money. And without them, the fire department exists. Now, I can't speak for these guys, but I'm sure they're more happy not to answer a fire call. But I'm gratified that if there is even the beginning of a fire, and they've been to my house for such,
They're there.
that before I knew it, it was over and done with. That's a big item. I live a mile from one of the houses. My insurance company tells me that's a good thing.
Me too.
Okay, so you get what I'm saying in terms of there's a quality of life issue. Now, I'm asking for a real study that we both can sink our teeth into. Maybe there should be an ad hoc committee that raises a few things that asks to be included in the study. And that is what I'm suggesting for your review. You're the leaders, we're the suggesters, but at the same time, we're the customers of the services that you provide us. And it's sort of, I'm not great at a lot of things, but I know when I get good service. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Koskin, just let me state this also, that I can't agree with you more. The Town of Carmel physical plant, where they're located downstairs in what we call the lower portion of the building, they've outgrown that. And we're aware of that. We've had discussions about this in the past, and I think we brought this up last time you were here. They need a new facility, but there's a tremendous cost to that new facility. And it's something that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for.
Yes.
I'd love to go out there and find a pot of money or a pool of money somewhere on the federal or state level.
I know nothing about the government, and that ignorance is bliss, because I'll be home before you will tonight, and that's a joy. But let me ask you, do you do 5 or 10-year projects? Do you do bond proposals saying, there's $4 million that's got to go over there? Now, you know, as Mr. Lombardi has investigated and discovered, I'm in the school industry, and we threw out a $38 million bond. I don't know if $38 million is enough for you to take care of all of the services that you need, but I can't imagine any other way of doing it. Is this under consideration?
It is.
It is.
It absolutely is. And we've applied for grant funding through the state multiple years. And one of the projects that we submitted grant funding for, an application for, included the police department. That's probably a $6, $7, $8 million project, because it just wouldn't be the police department. It would actually be a judicial system or a center, courts, NPD.
Right.
So it's something that we're aware of, and we'd like to move forward with it, but we just, right now is not the good time. It's not a good time from a fiscal standpoint. To borrow money, it is, because interest rates are low. But do the taxpayers at this point want to take on more debt? That's the question.
Okay.
So-
So just as a logistical thing, if the town board decided that there was a bond that they wanted to float, does that go to a referendum? Is that how
Yes.
that's how it's approved?
Public hearings, referendum,
Yeah.
there's
Okay,
a very long process to get it.
all right.
And that's something we may want to consider in the future.
Thank you.
All right,
Good night.
you're welcome, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that wants to come up and speak?
I'm going to speak wearing two hats. I'm going to speak as the chairman of the Recreation Committee tonight. The gentleman before me brought up recreation. So I just want to let this town board and the residents know that we're actually moving in a very, very positive direction. Kamada Park should be done in the spring. That's 4 dugouts, brand-new dugouts, a utility building to include bathrooms up there, which we haven't had, and they really need desperately up there. We're going to have a paved parking lot. In that park, I always tell the news reporters I consider it's going to be the central park of the town of Carmel. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful park, and not that many people take the opportunity to go up and see it. But the building should be there, the utility building should be up there within the next 2 weeks. The dugouts have been placed there within the last month or month and a half, and the paving of the parking lot should be done in the spring. So that's a very, very positive thing. With the airport property, with the soccer fields in the back and maybe some lacrosse fields, we got some money coming in from the Easter Hudson Fund, which is, you know, as a member of the Easter Hudson Fund, I know you're involved with it. Been dealing with John and Susie from the liaisons on the Recreation Committee. They've been very helpful. We got a $250,000 grant from Senator Murphy up there. So we do have some positive things happen in recreation. And I also heard some discussion about engineers up here earlier. I got to tell you, I've been involved in the Recreation Committee for about 10 years. The current setup you have right now does work very well for us on the Recreation Committee. We meet once a month on Tuesday morning at 7:30, myself, John Lupinacci, Susan McDonough, John Fulchetti, and Rich Franzetti, and we go over things. In years past, I can tell you, recreation always sat on the bottom of the pile. And with the support of this town board, the engineering department, and working with the Recreation Committee that I'm on, we've been making some great progress there. So I just want to let you know we enjoy working with the engineering department now. In years past, our projects never got off the desk. We was always told this had to be done, that had to be done, and we always found ourselves on the bottom of the pile, and it was very disturbing. We finally have a good relationship thanks to our liaisons, like I said, John Lupinacci and Susie McDonough and the rest of the board, encouraging the engineering department to work with us. So things are moving in the right direction. And I'm going to say one last thing before I leave. In my prior life, since we all had prior lives, I'm retired now, but I was in law enforcement for 28 years. I also was a union president for 14 years. I can tell you the worst thing that I ever could see happening, I sit home and cringe sometimes when I hear contracts with municipal employees. I don't care if it's CSCA, the Highway Department, or police. I always find very difficult to actually negotiate a contract in public. I think there's a negotiating committee that the unions would have. You guys got representatives. You guys should hammer that out behind closed doors, and when you get your negotiations settled, bring it out to the public. Because if you're going to do it in the wide open, it's going to create nightmares, not only in the memberships of the unions, because the union leadership needs to do certain things, and they can't report every single maneuver back to the membership every day, because it will just hamper negotiations. And as a town board, you can't let the public know every day, every little thing that you're talking about, because it becomes a nightmare, and you'll never settle a contract. I know you've been out 5 years. I would love to see you get all your contracts settled with your labor groups here and move forward, but I think negotiating them in public would be a mistake, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Bob. Okay, anyone else for new business? Okay, there being none, we do have some announcements that we've been asked to make.
Do you have the one with Mark Pekowski with
Yeah.
the jazz?
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to do it too?
Oh, I don't care if I
Yeah, go ahead.
don't.
You read that whole page.
Yeah, don't read this whole page. Read that.
Sure. Putnam Arts Council, in partnership with the Mahopac High School's Friends of Music, present an evening of Cuban jazz. It's featuring the quintet in concert at Mahopac High School with special guest artists from the Mahopac High School music program. It is Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m., and the snow date, which hopefully we'll not need, will be on February 18th. It is $10 per person and $5 for students and seniors. Kids under 6 are free, and additional donations are welcome. The tickets are available at Ward, but I'm going to try to pronounce the name. It's Oriente Lopez Quintet in concert. It's a Grammy Award-winning musician and composer. So this really is a very special event going on. So try to make it on Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m. You don't need to come here. You guys can go, everyone can go over there.
Okay, thanks, Susie. John, you have anything? John?
No, I have
Do you
nothing.
anything? Jonathan? Nothing here. No. Okay, we do have executive session, as somebody mentioned earlier. Police Chief Mike Kazari is going to be coming in to give us the town board an update on the PCSO, New York State Police, Carmel PD initiative. And he's also going to be discussing the next new police candidate hire that we'll be interviewing within the next couple of weeks. So, and Town Engineer Rich Franzetti and John Folchetti, PE, Engineering Consultant. Victor Cornelius from Endeavor Municipal Development, that's the grant writer, will be meeting with the town board to consider proposals that he has submitted for the financial development services for the town of Carmel. So those are the two items that we have on the executive session agenda for tonight. We will be closing the meeting in executive session. Once we complete that, we're not coming back out to close the meeting. So I do need a motion to close this meeting, and a motion to go into executive session for the items that I just announced.
So moved?
So moved by Councilman Lupinacci. Seconded by Councilman Schneider. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We'll be back here next week on February 10th for a town board work session. Good night. Be well.